Do you want to explore the universe in a rack with a rack words? Do you want to explore the universe in the name of the God Emperor? The Imperialis Fleet might be for you. I'm Astra, and welcome to my first guide on how to play one of the many Warhammer 40,000 detachments. Today we're starting with Imperialis Fleet. Why Imperial Agents, you may ask? Well, I made my first video, I got ill, the first day the slate came out, and then nothing happened. Agents got nothing. I wanted to make some more content for the few Agents players that are out there, and to encourage people to play the army, because ultimately Games Workshop is only going to make changes to the faction if people are playing it. So this is my guide to how you can play Imperialis Fleet. Do you want to start playing Imperial Agents? What's your army rule? Your army rule is Assigned Agents. Ding! Assigned Agents is the rule that lets you take Imperial Agents in other armies. This is not Knights. The way Knights works is they have an army rule on top of this, so they sort of have two army rules. If you're playing Agents, you're playing on hard mode. You have no army rule. Hopefully this will change in the future. But what is Imperialis Fleet? Imperialis Fleet is the Voidfarers focused detachment. That is the group of the Imperial Agents sub-faction focused on traveling the void, your rogue traders, your navigators, your voidsmen, and all of these, and those that come between. Your detachment rule is at all costs. In your command phase, you choose one of two options. You eliminate at all costs, or you acquire at all costs. Eliminate at all costs means you select one unit in your opponent's army, and until your next command phase, everything in your army has +1 to hit. This is like somewhat comparable to Oath of the Moment, for those of you that are familiar with the Space Marine rules, but obviously it's +1 to hit instead of rerolls, so it's sort of a side grade. Acquire at all costs is a more defensive, more control-y focused ability. You select one objective marker on the battlefield, and until your next command phase, any Agents of the Imperium units that stand within range of that objective marker get +1 to leadership, +1 to objective control, and they all gain a 5-up invulnerable save. Typically, which of these you'll choose will depend on the state of the game, what it is you have to do, what your secondary card draws are. So this is a very case by case. A lot of the time I find that acquire at all costs is the more useful of the two, unless you really need to kill something. But they both have their uses. Now let's briefly run through the enhancements we have access to in this detachment. Our first enhancement is Clandestine Operation. They really don't make these easy to pronounce, do they? At the start of the Declare Battle Formation step, this goes on an Imperial Agents model only, or Agents of the Imperium. You can select up to 3 Agents of the Imperium infantry units from your army, excluding Grey Knight Terminators. They gain the Infiltrator's ability. This is a powerful enhancement. If you're playing this attachment, you should be probably taking this every game. The most common use for this is you will put it on 3 squads of Seductors and make a gigantic wall of dudes. Ow. The second enhancement in this attachment is Combat Landers. This goes on a Voidfarers model only, so that limits this enhancement specifically to the Navigator and the Rogue Trader Entourage squad, the leader of the squad being the character that receives this enhancement. At the start of the Declare Battle Formation step, you can select up to 3 Voidfarers units from your army. Those units gain the Deep Strike ability. So the options you have here are Voidsman at Arms, Imperial Navy Breaches, and the 2 characters, the Navigator and the Rogue Trader Entourage. This is at the start of the Declare Battle Formation step, so if you want to attach a leader to one of these squads, you'd have to spend 2 of the 3 uses of this ability. So if you wanted to, let's say, Deep Strike a Rogue Trader squad Entourage attached to a Navy Breacher squad, I find this may change game by game depending on if you need the Deep Strike denial of the Navigator, but commonly you will put this on Voidsmen at Arms because they are 50 points, so they make a very, very cheap Deep Strike scoring unit, which is quite powerful. Our third enhancement is Digital Weapons. This goes on an Agents of the Imperium model only, and each time the bearer is selected to fight, you roll 3 dice, and for each 4-up, the enemy unit in engagement range of the bearer suffers 1 mortal wound. These are also treated as having precision, so if you happen to go into a character that has 3 wounds and you roll 3 4-ups, it's dead just immediately before the fight starts. It's quite funny. This thing's 10 points. I think this is arguably the weakest of the enhancements, but it is also one of the 2 cheapest, so if you have 10 points spare and you can't afford one of the better ones, you put this on, I don't know, a Watchmaster or something that wants to actually fight. Our final enhancement is Fleet Master for 20 points. This also goes on a Voidfarer's model only, so same restrictions. Once per battle round, you can target the bearer's unit with the Violent Acquisition, Masters of the Void, or Close Quarters Barrage stratagems for 0 CP. This is a good enhancement. You'll understand more of this once we get to the stratagems, so we'll cover that. Typically, you'd want to put this on a Rogue Trader squad unless you're using specifically checked notes. Maybe Masters of the Void, the other ones buff the squad you're using it on, so that you typically won't put this on a Navigator, but it's a good strategy. And let's talk about the stratagems the army has access to. Something you'll note as we go through these is that the rules, the stratagems, and the enhancement will do a lot of heavy lifting, as the data sheets in Agents are not spectacular. There's a few standouts, but these abilities you can apply to them are what help make them usable. Our first stratagem is Violent Acquisition. This is a stratagem that costs 2 CP, which is expensive. You can use it in your shooting or fight phase on any agents of the Imperium unit in your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit, if it attacks something within range of an objective marker, gains sustain hits, lance, and ignores cover. Notably here, only 2 of the 3 will always apply, because you can't get lance with shooting, and ignores cover doesn't matter in melee. It does not make it bad, all of these effects are good. Importantly here, some of the synergies that I'll note is 1, the Fleet Master enhancement we talked about just a few minutes ago lets you use this for free on a Rogue Trader squad. This will substantially up the fire output of a oh god. This will substantially up the firing output of a Rogue Trader squad attached to a Navy Breacher squad. Navy Breachers innately reroll wounds against things on objective markers, and Violent Acquisition will then give them sustained hits, lance, and ignores cover on top of this. And one use of it will be for free due to the enhancement. This can quite significantly up their damage output. The other use case for this is you may use it on a Deathwatch squad with a Watchmaster attached, because the Watchmaster's ability allows you to reduce the stratagem's cost by 1 CP, thereby making it more repeatably usable. If you use both together and then apply the +1 to hit from the army rule, you have some significant output, though granted you may still struggle into larger targets like knights. Our second stratagem here is Emperor's Will. In your movement phase, for 1 CP, target an agent of the Imperium unit from your army, and that unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Just ignore the part of this stratagem that says until the end of the phase. If your opponent forces you to use this as it is written, you will not be able to shoot in that phase, because it says until the end of the phase, in the movement phase. Can your gun shoot during the movement phase? I don't think so. Most people are not assholes and will let you use this as is clearly intended to be used, but it's a funny typo that Games Workshop still hasn't fixed. Our next stratagem we'll talk about is Masters of the Void. This is another one of the stratagems that Fleet Master can discount. This stratagem lets you, in your movement phase, select a Voidfarer's character units from your army, and until the end of the phase, agents of the Imperium units from your army that are arriving from reserves this turn can be set up in your opponent's deployment zone. This is nice to sometimes bring in something in your opponent's deployment zone for something like sabotage or something. It's a bit of a weird one. It depends what army you're against. If they're able to screen, it's not as useful. The fact you have to target a Voidfarers is a bit odd, but it's mostly just so that Fleet Master can discount it. It has uses. It's not bad. Our next stratagem is Displace the Field. This is arguably one of the most important reasons you might want to play this attachment. This is 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase when they select a target for a ranged attack. You select 1 agent of the Imperium character unit from your army, excluding assassins, that was selected as an attack, and until the end of the phase, your models in that unit gain a 4+ invulnerable save, and after the attacks resolve from that shooting activation, unless you're in engagement range, so if you're tagged in combat this won't work, you can make a normal move of up to 6 inches with the fly keyword. So functionally it's a reactive shield plus short range teleport, which can be quite powerful. Importantly, you can use this to move a unit that was on an objective behind a wall after someone shoots like some bolters or stubbers at it, which is very helpful. Our fifth stratagem is Close Quarters Barrage. This is the final stratagem that is discounted by the Fleet Master enhancement should you choose to take it. In your shooting phase, for 1 CP, you select 1 Voidfarer's unit from your army, and until the end of the phase, Each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 12 inches, increase the strength and armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. There is some pretty gross combinations you can do here with this in combination with Violent Acquisition. So if you target a Rogue Trader squad with Fleet Master in a Navy Breacher squad, and you're targeting a unit on an objective with guns and you're within 12 inches, you could Violent Acquisition for free with your enhancement, and then also spend a CP for Close Waters Barrage, and suddenly your piddly little Navy Breacher attacks are now sustained hits with Ignores Cover, +1 AP, +1 strength, and re-rolling wound rolls. It adds up pretty quick. You can chunk down some pretty significant stuff with that. Obviously that requires a lot of investment, and you can also stack that +1 to hit from the army rules should you choose to, checks notes, eliminate at all costs. But this is a good stratagem. 1 CP is a good place. You might not necessarily always use it for free with Fleet Master, but you might sometimes spend a CP on this. Your final stratagem for this detachment is Selfless Bodyguard. In your opponent's shooting or fight phase, after your opponent selects a target for an attack, you select one Agents of the Imperium attached unit, so one that's being led by a leader, that was selected as a target for one or more of the unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a attack is with the precision effect is made to that character model in that unit. So someone says, I'm going to try and snipe out your Inquisitor Draxus. You can spend a CP on this, and then you roll a d6 for each of those attacks, and then on 2+, that attack is allocated to a bodyguard model of your choice instead. So you can block precision. This stratagem is quite niche. If it comes up, it might matter, but otherwise you won't use this most of the time. So that was sort of the basic rules of the detachment. What's the game plan though? Your plan here is you are a scoring army. You are not going to tail your opponent unless they are all infantry, more than likely. Your goal is to score as many points as possible and more than your opponent and hold objectives. There's a lot of gimmicky things you can do to do this. So a key example is the reactive move of the Displacer Field on a Rogue Trader squad. If you move them behind the wall in doing so and they kill like 2 models at the start of your next turn, you could acquire at all costs the objective you just moved off, and then respawn D3 Navy Breachers, moving them back onto the objective, each of which would have OC3. So you could quite easily flip objectives in your command phase with effects like this. You are a very gimmicky army in this way, and you can manipulate objectives in your favor until you run out of stuff. So what does the competitive Imperial Agents list look like for this detachment? Well, I reached out recently to Jacob Wells, who is currently the top ranked at Imperial Agents on, I believe, UKTC and globally, for some advice on this. We sort of talked through some of the things that you expect to see in these kinds of lists. Typically, lists for this detachment will have at least two assassins, mostly for the swap out effect that you get for playing Imperial Agents. The assassins can switch for other assassins of equal or less points. Most commonly, he takes a Calidus assassin, which is a staple on most agents lists, and a Collector's assassin, which is a very good scoring unit. You will usually take some mixture of Inquisitors and Inquisitor Traxxas to attach to Navy Breacher squads. Regular Inquisitors with their psychic weapon are quite strong with Navy Breacher's wound rerolls because they have devastating wounds, so it makes quite a potent flamer. Whereas Inquisitor Traxxas can give the squad +1 to hit against Xenos factions, but also benefits again quite heavily from wound rerolls. Other includes are your expected Voidbearer characters, your Navigators, your Rogue Trader entourages. You probably take at least 1 Navigator and at least 1 Rogue Trader entourage in every list, unless you want three of the enhancements, in which case you might take 2 Rogue Trader entourages. As for infantry options, it's quite common to not leave home without 3 Voidmen and Arms squads and 3 Subductor squads. This is because typically some of the most popular ways to play this detachment are to give Deep Strike to all 3 squads of your Voidsmen, because they are 50-point dudes you can just drop wherever. And for the Subductors, you give them all Infiltrate and build a giant wall of dudes. Or if not, or if it's a bad matchup for it, you put them behind walls to score on objectives. But other infantry options, you'll quite commonly see 2 to 4 squads of Navy Breachers with as many of the weapon options as you fancy. Most commonly, you see the heavy weapon option taken as either a plasma gun or a melter gun for some higher strength weaponry, as well as 1, but maybe sometimes 2 squads of Deathwatch veterans, and with a mixture of weapons. Usually you see a couple of shields, as many Thunderhammers as possible, and a couple of the heavy weapons, usually attached with either Watch Captain Artemis or the aforementioned from earlier in the video, the Watchmaster, for decreased CP consumption, as well as advance and charge. A more recent addition is the Sanctifier squad, which has Scout. You could put it in a Rhino to get the Rhino to move up further before putting something else in it. But other than that, there's the common staples in agents of you take at least one Rhino, usually one for each Deathwatch squad you have to help get them to where you need them to be, and an Immolator with the Sisters of Battle squad, because the Immolator's rule allows you to split the Sisters of Battle squad in two, which gives you extra scoring units, and one can stick at your home objective, which is important for holding it against stuff, I guess. So if your opponent doesn't have Deep Strike, you can just leave it. Thank you again for Jacob for talking to me about this army. Hopefully this guide has been a nice summary of how the army works. If you guys have any questions, please ask in the comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like, there is now a Discord server for my YouTube channel. I will post it down in the description. Thank you again for watching. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time.